Hey everyone, welcome to a live episode of Strong Style. I'm one of your hosts here, the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by my man over there in Orlando, Aaron Turner. How are you, bud?
Oh, not in Orlando anymore, sir.
Oh,
Gone from Orlando as of last week. So in beautiful Ponce Inlet, Florida, temporarily for the time being. As you can see, we're at the old beach house. So we got the beach, the soft tones in the background. Yeah, a little right by the beach, about a block and a half away. You can hear it at night. It's lovely.
Oh, nice. I've got Mexican music blaring below me because the workers are down there. They're making they're doing some earthquake retrofitting, and they were listening to some interesting music. So if it bleeds through I apologize to you all if it bleeds through the audio, but it's a live show. There's not much I can do about it outside of what we have already done to make it work here for today. So I apologize that I'm a few minutes late. I was on a call. I had to kind of finish that call before I jumped on to this, but I'm excited to get going today. We got so much to talk about. We got that Adam Cole walkout on Pat McAfee. We got news going from Eric Young. I want to throw in some conversation about Shayna Baszler. Also, we're going to revisit for our main match. We're going to revisit Wrestlemania III, Ricky The Dragon Steamboat versus Randy the Macho Man Savage for the Intercontinental Championship. One of the most legendary matches. People still refer to this match, still talk about this match. In fact, Christian Harloff was on my Outlaw Nation show the other day, and he said this is still his favorite match of WrestleMania ever. So we'll see if it holds up. We'll have a big discussion about that and get into a bunch of things. Right, Aaron? How are you? Are you ready to get into everything?
Dude, I'm beyond ready. Let's do this.
All right. What's our first thing, my man?
So let's go ahead and talk about the big story so far this week, and it kind of just dropped yesterday, and that's Adam Cole going on the Pat McAfee show, and kind of blowing up on, well, not kind of, he really did blow up on Pat.
Yeah.
It's not like Adam Cole to go on any kind of program and drop a bunch of F-bombs. It's a little bit out of character for him. Which I think that got a lot of people thinking that maybe this was the real deal. And Pat McAfee and Adam Cole have had like this on-air thing going back and forth. If you have watched your NXTs, you know that they had a thing going back and forth where Pat McAfee kept calling him short and different things. Well, during this, he kept saying, that Adam Cole was, people compare you to Shawn Michaels. How does it feel to know that you're not near that level yet?
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect and things like that. And Adam Cole said, you say things like that, but I can't help but take it as disrespectful. And then storms out, says that he left a thing with his family to be here on this show, and he's going to treat him like that. So it's 100% a work. It's not real. So I just want to go ahead and just get that out of the way right now. 100% a work.
All right.
The fact that Adam Cole could make you think that it's real just tells you how good Adam Cole is.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you it's 100% a work, because they would never, ever, the WWE would never allow someone, Pat McAfee, of course, works for the WWE sometimes.
Right.
So they would never not allow Adam Cole to be working somebody. And plus, he's too smart for that. He's he's a student of the business. He studied all these guys. He knows exactly what he's doing. So, I mean, you're a sports guy, John. Like, you know Pat McAfee, punter for the Indianapolis Colts, and unfortunately former West Virginia Mountaineer. So what did you think about this going on here?
Well, first of all, because there's all that beef going on behind the scenes, or there has been beef built up, in front of the cameras throughout NXT and everything like that, I thought this was very, very interesting to take this kind of chance. And look, it's quiet right now. People are watching these matches, but the WWE is getting a lot of crap for that Extreme Rules situation that happened over the weekend at the pay-per-view. Adam Cole is one of their top people. You just took the belt off him, so you got to figure out a way to keep him kind of in the conversation with things. So this is an interesting angle to play. It's very reminiscent of what we'd seen before, like years and years past, right? This idea of Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman. This idea of because Pat McAfee is not a wrestler. He's out of the NFL. He's a punter, which I really loved how Adam Cole called his ass out for that. You've got shades of this. Even it feels a little bit like Piper and Snuka, how that felt so real to me at the time when it happened. That you're like, well, what's the actual reality of this situation? And so in here, and you're saying it's a work, totally respect that it's a work. It's a fantastic work.
Yes.
Because I mean, like you said, Adam Cole does not go on these shows and drop those F-bombs. And Pat McAfee kind of really has blown up, and it's been beyond the understanding for a lot of people how a punter like him has somehow just garnered so much attention from the wrestling fans.
Yeah, I mean, he even said it himself. He was on the NFL All-Decade team as the punter, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. But
certainly.
Pat McAfee has that big following, so I don't know who needed the boost here. I don't know why we're boosting Pat McAfee. I don't know why we're boosting Adam Cole. I'm not sure. These guys must have a thing behind the scenes where they really like each other. They like working with each other. That would be my guess. But it's really fun because we're both sports and wrestling fans. Like, we're just, and I don't mean to not throw wrestling in as a sport. You can debate that all you want, but I'm just saying, like, it's fun to watch those worlds collide and watch the fans collide, because there are so many people out there that are wrestling fans and not football fans, and there's football fans that aren't wrestling fans, but it's rare to find both. And when they kind of cross streams, like yesterday, I'm sitting there reading these comments of people saying this, "Who's this Adam Cole guy? He's a fake wrestler," and all this BS. And I'm just sitting there, just like with my arms crossed, like, this is amazing. Like, I love watching these people get so wrapped up thinking this is the real deal. Yeah. And you just know that it's a work. It just is. That's just how this is going to go. What comes out of it? Is there a takeover match between these two? God, I hope not. Yeah. Like, what does this morph into?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, does McAfee get a wrestler to kind of defend his honor in the ring? Is that where we're going to go with this? And Adam Cole's been a heel for a long time. This feels like he almost went face by acting like a heel in this moment, because once again, McAfee has him on the show, but McAfee is needling him, and McAfee is saying those things that an asshole needler would say, which is no offense. But no offense, but, well, I mean, when you really look at it, you're not really Shawn Michaels. And so, you see it build. I mean, it's very reminiscent of, if some people would remember way back when, Jim Everett, quarterback for the Rams, flying over the table at, Jim Rome. Jim Rome flying over the table because Jim Rome kept calling him Chris Everett instead, as a reference to somehow affect his manhood, as if Chris Everett was an incredible woman athlete, but
better than Jim Everett. That's
certainly. Well, better than Tony Rome or Jim Rome as well. So as if that was somehow of an insult, and then Jim flew across the table and that got real, right? This came really close when Adam Cole knocks over all that stuff and starts storming towards Pat McAfee. It's such a great work because logically he could absolutely go around that desk and beat the crap out of McAfee if he wanted to, right? But then he storms out talking to, and also kind of a face thing to talk about his family. I took time away from my family to come and do this. So maybe they're kind of turning Adam Cole a little bit more towards that angle for him, and see how that plays with the fans, because they got to do something with him if they can't put the belt on him.
It's interesting you say that, spend time with family, because his poor girlfriend Britt Baker, AEW wrestler, has a broken leg and a busted face, so he's probably trying to spend as much time with her as he can. She's probably hurting quite a bit. But Adam Cole is a guy that, even though he's a heel, yes, he's a heel on TV, but he's one of those guys that you can't help but love. He's almost like a Bray Wyatt. Like, anytime Bray Wyatt now is a bad guy, he's still kind of a good guy. Right, like, people still love him, people still buy his stuff. And I saw people talking about it in the chat. I'll name drop it again. I did get to meet Adam Cole not too long ago, and yes, he is 100% like the nicest, coolest dude. Big gamer nerd, has a huge, extensive video game collection. He loves foam fingers. He's a dork, and I love him for that. So it's so out of character if you know the guy Adam Cole and know like his behind the scenes kind of stuff. Like, you really have to piss Adam Cole he off to be doing this kind of stuff. So either it is a great work, or it's a terrible shoot, and I'm not sure which one it is. I'm leaning towards the work part over the shoot, but it's just fun to watch the people get all tangled up over this. It's great.
Absolutely. I mean, Christian Ramos, kind of echoing what I said here, said this reminded me of the Man on the Moon with Jerry Lawler, seeing such a great work. And then someone else referencing, there it is, Zeno Ara, which we spoke about when we covered Dark Side of the Ring. He said, my favorite shoot is still David Schultz and John Stossel, Dr. D, right? Yeah.
That was awesome.
That's smack heard around the world,
I still think about that on occasion. Like, Dr. D. David Schultz really got a raw deal about his whole entire career was just shaken up in that one moment. And John Stossel, once again, I'll say it, that little bitch. But you should go back and watch our episode on Dark Side of the Ring where we talk about Dr. Schultz. I think we both ended up really liking him. So,
absolutely,
he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, I love him. And guys, remember, we've got the Streamlabs and the Super Chats open. Send in what you can to support the show. We'd really appreciate it. You know, I don't like to put too many, what do you call this, goals, financial goals on this show. I just love doing it for fun with Aaron and talking pro wrestling. But it's good to get a little bit of love from you guys, a little bit of help to keep things going here on the Outlaw Nation as well. So don't forget to do that. Send in your Streamlabs, send in your Super Chats. You see the address above Aaron's head right there. Streamlabs.com/John Rocha says /TIP/tip. That's how you can go, or submit your super chats through here. And let's move on to our next thing, man. What do we got?
All right, now we're talking about Eric Young, and this is a story that came out this week. Old EY himself, recently released in that the big releases that happened in April. He was one of the casualties there, and he's talking about how WWE, the system is broken. Mm-hmm. And all the flaws are created by one man. This is from ProWrestlingSheet.com, our good buddy Ryan Satin over there. Yeah. And he said the system is broken. You blame one man, and who else would you blame but Vince McMahon himself?
Right.
And he was talking about there seems to be secret rules. Those change daily. He quoted as saying, "I'm definitely not the first person he's made a mistake on, and I won't be the last person he's made a mistake on. And I don't think it's anything personal." And he later goes on to say, "But I'm a man. I'm not going to stand in a hallway and for 4 hours just to talk to him. I'm not going to do that. Right. Maybe that's wrong on my part. It could be stubborn on my part. I'm a 40-year-old man, and I'm not going to wait in the hallway like a child to maybe get 5 minutes to talk to him. I said my piece. He seemed to be responsive to it, and nothing came from it."
Yeah.
So Eric Young, of course, made his return to TNA Wrestling or Impact Wrestling at Slammiversary, and has kind of gone back to that old character. People like seeing him as EY, Don't Fire Eric, if you remember those TNA times. But he's making a lot of sense here. I think he's echoing a lot of what these recently released wrestlers are saying, and what a lot of people are saying about Vince McMahon, that he is the issue. He is the problem. Like, Sanity, Eric Young's group in NXT, was such a big thing with Killian Dane, Alexander Wolf, Nikki Cross, and Eric Young, of course. And now it's really just Nikki Cross. Like, Nikki Cross came out the best on that. They still have Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf, but neither one have really done anything other than Nikki Cross winning the women's tag team titles a couple times with Alexa Bliss. So, Sanity comes up to the main roster from NXT. There's all this hype around them, and then you don't see him for like 3 weeks, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Right. And then they slowly break them apart. They move Eric Young to Raw. They leave Killian Dane on SmackDown. They move Alexander Wolf to NXT UK. They move Nikki Cross over to SmackDown, and it's like, what the hell is going on? Like, why are we even doing this? And Eric makes a lot of good points. He is a 40-year-old man. He is on the kind of the back nine of his career, if you will. And why should he have to go sit there and just try to talk to Vince McMahon for 5 minutes when he's not going to listen anyway?
Yeah, and this is the thing I said to Ryan when we were first doing these recaps on Raw and SmackDown, because he was like, "Oh, these guys are getting paid. They're getting paid." And I'm like, yeah, money's not all the thing people want anymore. Like, people see how important it is to be one of the main people getting pushed, because it leads to merchandise, it leads to appearances, it leads to furthering your brand, it leads to social media opportunities, which lead to sponsorship opportunities, which lead to money. All of it is connected now. This is not the 80s or the 90s or in the 2000s, early 2000s, where people were just happy to be part of the WWE and wanted to make it work, and they were hanging out with the boys or the girls doing their thing and getting over with the fans. Now it's so much more, there's a multiple fronts that you have to succeed on. The New Day, they win titles, but it's almost irrelevant for the New Day to win titles. They're a commodity themselves. They're the things that sell, right? Eric Young coming over, it's an opportunity to go to the WWE. Look, a lot of these guys, when they've been doing the smaller circuits, or smaller and compared to WWE, the independent circuits, but also like TNA, Impact, and what have you, NWA, Ring of Honor. Like, when they get into the big leagues, you can get lost. When you come through, he said he had a great time at NXT, but it was when they got brought up, everything got lost. And look, we got Shayna Baszler right now. 2 months she was off television, and the rumors are because Vince just didn't buy or didn't like her being a female wrestler, the MMA wrestling type thing. He didn't 100% get behind it. Now she might be being worked into this situation coming up with SummerSlam because of Kairi Sane leaving. But even she was sitting on the sideline, and she was like a machine for so long for NXT. So I think Eric Young is absolutely right. It all comes down to Vince, but this is the way Vince has constructed the company. So if you're going to go work for the company, you kind of have to deal with the fact that it is all about Vince. And yes, sit in that hallway for 4 hours. I mean, Triple H talks about it all the time. He moved up because he was in Vince's ear all the time. He was willing to get up earlier than the other wrestlers to go to these company meetings, to go to these board meetings, to go sit in there as almost like a pseudo intern. He wasn't even a voice. He was just an intern sitting there making notes. And then eventually won Vince's trust, and look where he is now. And so those are the things that, unfortunately, when a man builds a company up, you are subject to the whims of that man. As a Redskins fan, it sucks that we have an idiot owner who's saying the Washington football team is what we're going with into 2020. I mean, but because that fool made enough money to buy a team and the NFL let him buy a team, we as fans are subject to that man's whims, unfortunately. And the same thing here. I don't think it's right. I actually think Vince should go. Triple H should take over. But unfortunately, you're subject to this guy's whims because he owns the company.
Yeah, and I saw a couple people talking about in the chat, like WWE hoarding talent is another problem. I think that's for sure because they have too many people and don't really know what to do with them. But at the same time, I wonder how much, COVID-19 has to do with this. Eric Young wasn't really getting, pushed anyway. He was really on just main event and stuff. But how much does the coronavirus have to do with all of this? And how much would maybe Vince would have been receptive to an Eric Young if maybe this wasn't happening, and I don't know where that goes, but I do want to read one more thing from that statement, which was really interesting. He said, Eric Young said, "I feel like I didn't exist for 2 years after being on TV every week for 14 or 15 years and working so hard to build your career. We're all independent contractors. We're all our own business. Then having a person basically take a dump all over your hard work and discard it like nothing. It's hard to deal with. It's a huge blow to the psyche, a huge blow to the ego. But I never thought, oh, this is my fault. It's just the system is broken."
Yeah.
Damn. That's the kind of stuff that makes you want to not come back to wrestling. This is the kind of stuff that breaks a person. And then I also saw in the chat, people were, someone said, Eric Young thinks the WWE system is broken and he worked in TNA with Dixie Carter. Holy crap. So that's saying something, man, because in the early days of TNA when Dixie Carter was running things, holy moly, with her and that Jeff Jarrett power struggle. Oh my God, I can't imagine what that really led to. But can we do a sidebar here? Okay, so the Washington football team.
Yes.
What are you leaning towards on a name? Do you have a name that you really like?
I like the idea of Warriors. I like the idea of changing the color scheme completely. We don't have to have Native American imagery attached to this at all. Change the color scheme. Make it the Washington Warriors. Go with something strong, some strong colors, and go with it. By the way, I don't buy any of these excuses that they had no plans for this. They were caught off guard. Any business person worth their salt who has been as successful as Dan Snyder is always is thinking 4, 5, 10 steps ahead of everything else and ahead of the public. So you can't tell me that he hadn't heard the loud noises of the protests about the name for quite some time. He had funded those studies, which kind of manipulated the results. He had spoken about it in interviews, so he was very aware that there was a possibility that one day the tide could turn. So any businessman worth their salt does exploratory commissions, kind of under the radar, hush hush, and figures out what names really work and to prepare ahead of time for it. I think what he's doing here, honestly, in my opinion, and I'll say this on Game Time as well on Monday, what I think he's doing here is he is taking the James Gunn Disney route. He is going to wait this thing out, saying Washington football team, this is on purpose. So he keeps the colors his in case he wants to use them, but he kind of plays to the red states and the blue states at the same time, liberals and conservatives. By removing the name, he pleases the liberals. By not choosing a new name and a new color scheme, keeping the old color so subconsciously people still think they're watching the Redskins, he pleases the red states. So he's playing both sides. So by the end of the season, if the furor dies down and the advertisers don't want to pull money away if he goes and calls them the Redskins again, he might call them the Redskins again. There's a real possibility down the road that stubborn little SOB will absolutely call them the Redskins again. And it's super frustrating to endure this crap. And it's embarrassing for a professional football team. This is an indoor league type of move, not a professional football team type of move in the highest league in the land.
Damn. Okay. Well, Well, there you have it. I kind of like the name the Red Tails. That was one that I really liked. I thought that was awesome. That concept art and the story behind it's amazing.
Absolutely. But do you trust those idiots to get Red Tails right and promote it correctly? No.
Hell no. And then I saw one yesterday where it was the Washington Red Wolves, and somebody like did the concept art for that. It's like, that's badass. But we don't I think Warriors is like, it's fine, but it's like, it's kind of close.
That's fair.
So let's move away from Warriors. I kind of like the Washington Redskins as the Redskin Potatoes. I thought that was great. That was a great idea. Or the Orange Skins with Don. I swear, did you see that?
I'm not letting you dig in like this.
Dude, that was great.
It was ridiculous. See? If Aaron Turner, who hasn't cheered for a winning team in 3 decades, can make fun of my team, you know that's the wrong situation.
My team went to the AFC Championship game last year, the Tennessee Titans. So let's calm down on that.
Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, good luck.
You're damn right, Ryan Tannehill.
Second year of Ryan Tannehill. Good luck with that.
Right. All right, well, we're done with the football talk, guys. But I think some super chats came in. So maybe we just need to get on to that.
Tommy Tom says, much love, Strong Style. Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate that. Loved Impact back in the day. Angle and Christian were great ex-WWE ads, but as more came in, products suffered. True. Impact needs the influx, but any worries of history repeating itself. Let's address that as we go into the free agent story, but not right now, Tommy Tom. So we'll put a pin on this one and address your concerns absolutely. And then we had one more that rolled through here. Michael T said, hey, not a huge wrestling fan, but really enjoy the show. Keep up the good work, gents. Well, thank you, Michael T. Very kind of you. No Streamlabs have come through. I will say this about the Eric Young situation. I wanted to chime in on this. Sure. I know what it's like to work for somebody who you are subject to their whims. And although the money is decent and you can pay your rent and you can save a little bit, the fact is if you're not being put in an opportunity to succeed and other people are being put in an opportunity to succeed over you, and it is a frustrating situation to sit and keep taking the hits. And yes, they give you a little bit of screen time on certain things that they don't 100% put support behind, but they put support behind someone else when you know you're just as talented, if not more than talented than that other person. It's extremely frustrating. And when you put in 10 hours of work a day to make sure you can be the person they push or be one of the people they push and they don't, it is massively frustrating. The money becomes irrelevant because it works on your soul. Yeah, for the last year, it wore me down. It wore me down to be doing all this work and be completely unappreciated by the people I work for and work with for some of them for the things I was doing. So I get what Eric Young is talking about 1,000%. And I think Eric was, because he spent so much time building through the indies and building through the smaller federations, he could have a little bit of say or more say on what his angles were, what his storylines were, possibly what his characters were, all that. But in the WWE, brother, you are a pawn you are a cog in the machine, and the entire machine is what's important, not your feelings. So that's unfortunately the truth.
I think we can all, or not all of us, but I think quite a few of us can relate to that. Like you're taught, like a lot of us are taught this mentality of, okay, well, you just stay the course, and you keep your head down, and you show them what you're made of, and it doesn't really work that way anymore. Like you can show somebody a million times what you're worth, or at least what you feel that you're worth, and they may not see that in you and go with somebody that's younger and they're cheaper. They're younger and cheaper. I can get them younger and cheaper, so I'm just going to go with them. And that's frustrating. That's even, I'm 34 and now I'm getting like undercut by people that are like 21 and 22. I'm like, hey, wait a second. Like I'm still young here. Like what's going on? I'm getting undercut now. Like what the heck is going on? Yeah, man, I can understand Eric Young's frustration, and I'm sure a lot of that old school, especially the wrestling mentality, is probably like, oh, you don't say nothing, like you just do your thing and be happy that you're in the WWE. Yeah, be happy you're getting that paycheck, brother. But I'm always happy to see people that want to go their own way. Like we might as well just move into the free agency because we're going to talk about that. So, I mean, as I'm sure that you guys knew, a lot of free agents in April, their contracts came up due on the 15th, or their 90-day non-competes were over on the July 15th. So we had a lot of people jumping ship. AEW hasn't really picked up anybody because they tape their shows a few weeks in advance. So there's a few people that are still kind of out there, and we're not sure where they're going to land. But let me just run through a few that ended up on Impact Wrestling. We talked about Eric Young. We had EC3 that showed up, which was a real surprise to me. Brian Myers, formerly known as Kurt Hawkins. We had Heath Miller, formerly known as Heath Slater, show up. Gallows and Anderson also made their debuts on Impact. So a lot of good talent here. Like, this isn't just run of the mill. Like, you got Gallows and Anderson, you got EC3, you got some really up and coming, we're not up and coming, but EC3 is an up and coming guy, and then you got Gallows and Anderson that are all time big time tag team talent to bolster that division. So you got to think that Impact made some really good moves in a company that, I swear, I was talking about this with the people in the room before you got in here. The company won't die. Like, Impact, you could shoot it in the face and it won't die. Like, it'll survive on life support.
Jason Voorhees, absolutely, or Michael Myers. It's Michael Myers.
Yes,
this will not die.
It just keeps coming back. It's the shape of pro wrestling. But I look at all these things, and I think the person that's going to benefit the most is probably EC3. He was a big fish in a small pond in Impact. He was their world champion at the time. Then he went over to WWE, where he was the small fish in the big pond. Yeah. And once he moved up from NXT, they didn't know what to do with him. Yeah, he beat Dean Ambrose on Monday Night Raw. Big friggin' deal. It led to absolutely nothing. And they just ended up doing nothing with him. Yeah. And now that he's gone, he's cut these great promos and these, just really getting his character hyped back up. And he goes to Impact to make an impact. He goes and beats up Moose, one of their top guys, which that's going to be a top feud. That's going to be really exciting. So I think of all the people, I see Chris Taylor, the Motor City Machine Guns, but they were TNA before. They weren't WWE cast-offs, which is why I didn't include them. But I just look at EC3 as really a guy that's going to benefit from all this change. I hope, anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, EC3 is someone that, like you said, we were complaining about the fact that he wasn't being highlighted more in the WWE. Storylines weren't being created for him, that maybe there was a little bit of bias because of Dixie Carter. Maybe this is Vince's petty way of getting back at Dixie Carter, by hiring her nephew and then completely burying this guy.
Not a real nephew.
Oh yeah, well, you know what I'm saying. But like, for the storyline thing, but like, kind of burying him for people's eyes and what have you, the PR wise as well, making him like kind of like suffer, putting him in the 24/7 title thing, which was ridiculous and an insult to EC3 talent. And it's really like confusing because EC3 isn't like Chris Masters or these other like muscle bound guys that get into the WWE kind of get lost. EC3 had real personality coming in. He really has he's a smart brain for promoting himself and doing well in the storyline. So it's very confusing why they didn't want to use this guy, why there was just a personal thing against this guy from the beginning, and why they would even bring him in if they weren't going to do something with him or move him up the roster. He could have easily stayed at NXT for a while and done his thing and stayed there and left a legacy. Adam Cole is still down there for years. Johnny Gargano still down there for years. EC3 could have been one of those guys. So why bring him up if you don't know what you're going to do with him? So maybe he's just not cut out for this particular version of the WWE right now, the way Vince is running it. And so he goes back down, does his own thing in another federation, and he'll be fine plying his trade. He's still young, building his legacy up. There are a number of wrestlers down at Ring of Honor, NWA, Impact, who have a hell of a following and don't end up going to the WWE and do just fine. Pentagon, he's doing great, and so.
But he's an AEW though.
Right. AEW, fine. He's at AEW, but like before that, he was building his name through Impact and Ring of Honor, what have you. So those are the things that I'm getting at. So maybe EC3 takes a little bit of a step down, does his thing, and it could be almost like McIntyre, where he steps away, goes back down, kind of plies his trade again, gets seen by the WWE again, and they go, oh no, we know exactly what to do with him. Sometimes it's about timing and what have you, but certainly EC3 is someone you should absolutely pick up immediately and put into storylines like they did with AEW and Brian Gage. Like if you just pick this guy up and immediately put him into a storyline.
Well, I think Drew McIntyre is a fantastic example, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly what I think will happen with EC3. I think he's going to get his name back up there. He can't really get any more jacked than he is. He's pretty jacked as it is. Yeah. But I mean, he's going to get his name back out there. He's going to make himself more valuable than he ever was before. And then when it comes the time to leave Impact and go elsewhere, he ain't going to no WWE. He's not going to play that game anymore. Right. He's going to go straight to AEW. And I think that they could use him very well there. And I think that him and MJF would be the feud of the century or the feud of the decade, especially for that company. That would put some asses in the seats. EC3 versus MJF. I would be all over that. But another guy that I think can benefit is Brian Myers, a.k.a. Kurt Hawkins. I think that Kurt Hawkins is a fantastic wrestler. Didn't really get to show it In this second run, of course, he lost like 200 matches in a row. And then they put him back with Zack Ryder to do the Major Brothers thing again, where they won the tag team titles. Yay. But he still lost like 200 matches in a row. And I know that wrestling is predetermined and it's not real. Like, he didn't really lose, but still, like 200 matches to lose.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Like, you got to do something with him. And they only paid it off with a short tag team title run. So I'm interested to see. And plus, I'm a big fan of Brian Myers. I really like what he does.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see Hawkins or Brian Myers get back out there and do some stuff. Gallows and Anderson, I think, will be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know why Impact over AEW. There was a story that came out that said they were actually supposed to debut on the debut episode of AEW Dynamite.
Yeah.
But ended up re-signing with the WWE instead, which I don't know if that was a good decision or not. So we'll see what happens with Gallows and Anderson. I'm not sure why they would do that and not go back to Japan. It feels like Impact, I hate to say it, is like beneath them at this moment, in their careers. But
you really think so?
Definitely. I don't like the North as a tag team is fine. The Motor City Machine Guns made their comeback. They're the champions.
Right.
And then they have a bunch of tag teams that are like no names. They lost LAX, but they have like the Deaners and like these dudes that I'm not really aware of that can definitely impress, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't see, unless they're trying to build up talent and do the EC3 thing, build themselves back up to be more lucrative elsewhere, which they could. I don't know. I don't know what kind of money Impact is thrown out. They also got Deonna Purrazzo early in the process of this, who is now their Impact Knockouts champion and who is great.
Yeah.
I make the joke a lot on NXT now that they're pushing X woman instead of Deonna Purrazzo, which is hysterical because Deonna Purrazzo was 1 in 22 on NXT matches. 1 in 22, and she's one of the best female wrestlers on the planet. So if that doesn't tell you WWE isn't doing right by their talent, I don't know what does.
That's a fair point. Absolutely. Tommy Tom, so I hope we addressed your concerns in your first Streamlab or Super Chat, rather, Tommy Tom. Here's another one from you. You said EC3 only signed a 1-year deal, so he has plans. Yeah, there you go.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I think you're dead on about that. I think I think your point about Drew McIntyre was dead on. Drew McIntyre revamped his career by going through the Indies, then going to Impact, then going to NXT, and then look, he's the WWE champion right now, and he's having, for all intents and purposes during this coronavirus, if it's one dude that's having a hell of a run, it is Drew McIntyre. He has really become the face of the WWE in lieu of Roman Reigns, of course, for family and health reasons not being there. Totally fine, totally get it. But Drew McIntyre has really seized that mantle that should have been Roman Reigns's. So we'll see how that plays out.
Okay. Any other free agents you want to talk about?
Zack Ryder is still out there. I know a lot of people are like, he was going to show up on AEW, but he didn't. Instead, it was Eddie Kingston, a former NWA wrestler, that showed up to challenge Cody. So I think we'll still see Zack Ryder in AEW. But as far as that goes, Sarah Logan, I know, is pregnant now. So she may not be wrestling in the near future, which is, good for her. Glad that her and her husband, Eric, from the War Raiders are expecting a child. That's wonderful. But I don't know where she goes from here. So we'll just have to see. And not a lot of female talent cast-offs. Deonna Purrazzo, we already talked about. MJ Jenkins hasn't really been picked up, at least I haven't seen. So we'll just have to wait and see for the rest. But Zack Ryder is really the only other one that kind of sticks out for me.
Okay. Well, are we at the point where we get into our main discussion?
Yes, we are. Okay. We are at that point.
I would like to throw something in for you to think about. I mean, I was talking to Christian Harloff off air, and he spoke to me about Shayna Baszler. He texted me this morning. He goes, "Why are they burying Shayna Baszler?" Use that term. We hadn't seen her on TV for 2 months. And I did some research on this, and like I said earlier, I found out that it's because Vince just does not see the combo of a female MMA fighter being a star in the women's division, even though Sonya's in there, but not really known for being from MMA or establishing herself in MMA the way that Shayna Baszler did. So the question is this: do you think this is a situation, even though they're going to work her possibly in the SummerSlam angle, that Shayna now starts to look herself, or do you think she's going to kind of ride this thing out and see if she can fill the hole that Becky Lynch has left in the firmament?
Well, I think they made a mistake from jump on Shayna Baszler, and I think the mistake was not making it clear whether she was on the main roster or not. That was something they didn't make clear right away. She was in the Royal Rumble and in the last two, but was still in NXT. She didn't win, of course. And then she was in the Elimination Chamber and won it, but she was still in NXT, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And then, once again, COVID-19. If COVID-19 doesn't happen, does she beat Becky Lynch at WrestleMania and they get that huge pop and, go with her there and Becky loses on the big stage and then goes off and does the motherhood thing? Is that where Shayna Baszler gets her moment? So I kind of think maybe that had something to do with it. But she was such an ass kicker in NXT. Like, beat the hell out of everybody, was like the longest reigning NXT women's champion. And they've done that a lot, man. Like, they did the same thing with Asuka. Like, they brought her in. They let her run roughshod for a little bit. And then they cooled her off. They had her lose to Charlotte and they cooled her off. And now they had Shayna Baszler come in with this feud with Becky Lynch already on top. And if you're not going to beat her, then what are you going to do? It seemed like they were more concerned with Rhea Ripley at the time than they were with Shayna Baszler. I think what happened was, and maybe Christian will, maybe take this in for a second too. Like, I think what happened was accidentally Shayna Baszler got passed over by Rhea Ripley. I think that's what happened at the time because she was so hot. Ripley was coming off of that Survivor Series, then coming off the War Games, and then beating Shayna Baszler. Like, she kind of passed her up in the pecking order a little bit. And I think that Vince fell in love with Vince and Triple H fell in love with Rhea Ripley, thinking, oh my God, we've got a blonde badass we can roll with. Instead of, we've got this MMA Ronda Rousey type, but we're just not going to get behind her. I think that's a lot of what happened. But since, Becky Lynch is gone, Kairi Sane is apparently gone. That makes me very sad. I think that Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax is gone. Tamina Snuka's not around right now. Like, I think Shayna Baszler might be able to find her footing here.
I mean, I think she certainly deserves to, and I think you got to be real with this. Let's break it down. Ronda Rousey, that's another MMA fighter that he didn't mind getting behind. You know why? Because Ronda Rousey is a good fighter. Obviously, she's a name, she's a talent. People use her in movies and whatever. But also, she, in probably Vince's eyes, is easy on the eye for him. And so, she's the one posing nude in Sports Illustrated. She's the one doing these things in body paint and all that kind of stuff. And, people are like kind of have attraction to her. That works for Vince. Maybe he sees Shayna. He doesn't see the same thing in Shayna that he sees in Ronda. And maybe that's a part of it as well. And that's unfair. That's unfair. People get behind wrestlers, man. I mean, I know. I hear you about Rhea kind of passing her over, but then you create the rivalry there. You create the rivalry going back and forth. You make her be a part of that situation. Shayna has really grown as a wrestler, as a performer, as an actress in this realm. That I think it's unfair that she's sitting at home for 2 months. Don't tell me Natty deserves TV time over Shayna. No offense to Natty, but Shayna can actually
you can defend her. It's fine. It's really bad. I understand
that she's still part of the storylines. I get it. I know she's a lifer and her dad and all of that and her family. I totally get it. But Shayna should be the one that's getting the push here. That's how this works, And so it's frustrating to see her having to sit home and another talent, just because she's one of the girls or one of the people in the back, gets to get this kind of shine. It's unfair. Even Lacey Evans, I would buy Shayna over Lacey Evans in a heartbeat. And I get Lacey Evans is classically in her look a little bit better than Shayna Baszler for some people in the stands. I get that. Plus the military thing, it's smart to kind of push her. But her matches are boring as fuck. And so it's like, okay, well, Shayna at least can convey some badassery,
That's the women's wrestling that I like. I like a bit of a badass woman against another athletically sound woman. And it's interesting because, Charlotte's gone now too. She'll be gone for the rest of the year.
Right, with her injury,
Yeah, and now, okay, so I just talked about them cooling, they cooled off Asuka. They cooled off Shayna Baszler.
Yep.
They cooled off Rhea Ripley too.
Yes, they
took her right away. Like, she was going straight to the moon. Then at WrestleMania, in probably the best in-ring match, you can at me if you want, that her and Charlotte had. And then they had Charlotte take the belt off of her. And then 2 months later, Charlotte gets the belt off of her. And now Io Shirai is the champion. And, Rhea Ripley is kind of a footnote. Like, what the hell are we doing, guys?
Right.
Like, we don't have a lot of female talent right now. I hate to say it. Like, we don't have a lot of top female talent in the WWE right now that are getting a push. Right. Like, where is Carmella? Like, if we're going to work with her, where is Mandy Rose if we're going to push her up? Where is Sonya Deville if we're going to push her up?
Right.
Like, where are these people? Like, they're in these shit storylines. And Carmella's at home making podcasts with Corey Graves. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
I'd rather see Carmella in the ring. And we got Lana and Natty playing like besties. We're losing Kairi Sane. We've got Asuka, who's doing very well with all this kind of stuff, and Bayley and Sasha Banks, who've been killing it.
Yeah.
But where the hell is everybody else? And like, do we really have time to be slowing down Shayna Baszler and slowing down Rhea Ripley? Like, we don't have time for this shit. Like, I want to see good women's wrestling and Impact Wrestling. I'm going to say Impact Wrestling again. It's the most Impact Wrestling's been talked about on a podcast in years. Their knockouts division is starting to get better than the WWE's women's division. And it hasn't been that way for a long time, but I'm glad to see it, man. Like, the more, the merrier. I love watching Impact knockouts kick ass.
Do we have an update on Tessa?
Nothing yet. Nothing yet on Tessa.
There's another one that's roaming around out there. And the Iconics. Yeah, why are we bringing back the Iconics to essentially be cannon fodder when those are slots that could be used for people who can actually be believably considered to win matches? It is super frustrating.
You need to stop it.
No,
you saw Peyton Royce's spinning suplex jackhammer thing that she did. I tagged you in that. That was badass.
He was, right? This is like saying, oh, one person, this actress did one good movie out of 19 terrible movies, and so they should be considered a good actress. Are you insane? No.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Cuba Gooding Jr. won an Oscar, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
You can't say that.
He was great. He was great in that movie, of course. He was great in
everything. He was good as OJ and People vs. OJ Simpson. Come on, Aaron. Look, you know the Iconics. They're over because they can wrestle, but they don't let them wrestle. I guess that's what I'm getting over. They don't let them wrestle the way you showed me that thing. I know. I've seen the Billie Kay stuff. I've seen the Peyton Royce stuff. They can actually wrestle if they let them wrestle. So let them actually wrestle. Stop turning them into pretty women who can barely do these moves because you're not smart about how to use them. And it's frustrating on so many levels because I think both those ladies could kick a lot of ass if you let them kind of go loose. Like Carmella. Carmella was someone I got turned around on as well because she was playing kind of the chicken shit heel, and I didn't get what was happening. I thought she was limited as a wrestler. And then when they actually let her do her thing, I was like, oh, for God's sakes, why are you holding this back? You can still play the chicken shit heel and wrestle. You can absolutely. Bayley's doing that now. So I just didn't understand the logic of doing that so that you take away the people who enjoy watching pro wrestling, take away the ability to enjoy these people's abilities,
And I apologize. I didn't put any respect on Nikki Cross. I got to put some respect on Nikki Cross because she's been doing a really great job.
Sure, absolutely.
And her and Alexa Bliss together are wonderfully hilarious.
Yes, I agree.
I do need to see more Alexa, though. I mean, I would love to see more of that. Instead of her being in music videos, let's get her in the ring. Just an idea.
Yeah, I wonder what the situation is there. If there's, because she's out in California, man. If you follow her Instagram, she's with that guy she's with, and they seem to be doing a lot of videos from that house. So I don't know if that means she's kind of off TV out of the ring for a while. So they're letting her explore other horizons. Maybe she's looking at acting. Maybe she's looking at making the Dave Bautista transition. I don't know, dude. So yeah, it's kind of weird how she's not in the ring a lot.
Well, you got a boyfriend in Hollywood that likes to sing, so I guess you got to. Because I know she lives in Orlando normally, so I mean, like, she's leaving the nest, man. Everybody's leaving Orlando. Get the hell out of there.
Of course, people are dying in Orlando, man, but there's not much better in California.
Dying everywhere, my friend. People are dying everywhere, unfortunately, but it seems to be a lot in Orlando. Yeah,
that's true. We got 49 of you all watching us live. Thank you so much for joining us live. We got about 37 likes. Can you guys hit that like button, swing your mouse over there, hit that thumbs up button, give us some love. If you're watching this later, please drop a comment down below and a like as well. The more likes, the more comments. It elevates the visibility of the show and the channel on the YouTube algorithm. So we would very much appreciate it if you could do that. All right. Oh, yeah, there's another one. Tim Kaskuba, Ruby Riott should totally get a face push now. There's another one.
I don't agree, but okay.
Wow. All right.
I'm sorry. I don't think she's great. I'm sorry. Like, I used to
be Rice is great, but you don't think Ruby Riott is great.
Listen, I used to be a big fan of Ruby Riott. I used to like what she did, but I just think that she just doesn't flow. Like her and Liv Morgan, for some reason, like for a minute I was like, okay, I could see them really doing some good stuff. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they've sucked. Like, I don't know what they're doing with Ruby Riott. I don't get it. Like, I think the better version of Ruby Riott is Shotzi Blackheart, who's in NXT. She's been phenomenal.
Shotzi's good.
She's been great. Yeah. So I just think eventually Ruby Riott's going to get the And once again, we kept Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan instead of Deonna Purrazzo. I'm just saying, like, what the fuck? Like, it makes no sense.
Right. And the Iconics. All right. What about Bianca Belair? They haven't used her that much as well. Huh? They should.
Well, she recently came back, so they've been using her kind of sparingly. Plus, you know, Angelo Dawkins just had a child, so the Street Profits haven't really been on TV because of that.
Gotcha.
And they're kind of a package deal going on, so she's been here or there.
Okay.
I don't know why she was off TV. She's another one that has like limitless potential that they should be pushing. She's outstanding. I don't know why they're not using her.
I wonder if Triple H is like feeding Vince just a little bit of arsenic every day.
He's just slowly killing him. Munchausen by proxy. Like,
take over the whole thing and fix everything.
That would be tremendous.
As sad as people would be when Vince passes, I think there will be the next day a huge shout of joy to see what Triple H can do with the WWE, because you assume he's going to take over creative with Stephanie, I imagine. So yeah, not that I'm wishing for Vince's death, but I'm saying when it happens, I think people the next day will be quite happy after they pay their appropriate respects to the man.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our main match, my man. What are we talking about today?
You know, just a little match called the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, freak out versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat from WrestleMania 3. You may have heard of it, guys. I'm sure some people have heard of it in the chat. I'm sure they've seen it. But you know, rewatch this match for the first time since around WrestleMania time. I like to do WrestleMania rewatches. So I had seen it recently, but hell, I watched it again. My father-in-law was watching it with me. I saw him peeking over when I was watching on my laptop. So. But let's get a little bit of the background before we talk about the main match. You know, this all started because Ricky Steamboat was at an autograph signing with some fans when Macho Man, you know, comes up from behind, attacks him, dropping him throat first on the guardrail. Oh, Ricky Steamboat, oh, God, like, oh, he's dying. And then it gets even worse as Macho Man would take the ring bell from the top rope and drop it across his throat, crushing his larynx and storyline. He couldn't breathe. He was in the back and the stretcher, just unbelievable stuff. And then, of course, the two would go back and forth over the next 6 months, leading to this match at WrestleMania, which, of course, Macho Man was with Liz at the time. And Ricky Steamboat comes out with George the Animal Steele. And he, of course, was involved with that because he had a crush on Miss Elizabeth. But then again, who didn't, brother? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even as a young fella, I'm like, ooh, that's a pretty lady. So that's where we're at. You know, Macho Man Randy Savage dropping the bell over the larynx was the inciting incident in all of this, and this is how we get this match.
Yeah.
Pontiac Silverdome, brother. 93,000 come to see Hulk Hogan slam Andre the Giant, dude. Yeah. And then this match steals the entire show.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to stop real quick here. I remember watching this happening because I'm young. I'm older than you, obviously, Aaron. I don't know if you watched this happen in real time. I did, and I remember when he dropped that bell on Steamboat, and it felt real to me. I was in that space where I was transitioning. And remember, back in the 80s, and nowadays, of course, you know, but back in the 80s, you weren't sure how much was real. And when you were a teenager, a young teenager, or a young man, you didn't really know what was real, what wasn't real. And that moment looks over. Now watching it, of course, you're like, oh, yeah, the belt clearly just hits the chest. But like in that moment, you didn't know if he actually went after him with the belt and it was real. And Steamboat sold the shit out of that when he was getting carried away in the gurney. And you're just like, man, this is great. But you know what? Watching the promos or watching the promotion for this match before it happened, seeing that doctor in there with his shirt, like no shirt on. And I mean, this is a guy they probably grabbed off the street to come in and play the doctor who's surprised by the recuperative abilities of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. It is a bit laughable now to watch. And you know, it's kind of other thing too, is that I don't think Ricky can cut a great promo. He got a good promo, but not a great promo. And Savage's promo was really good here. And everything, like you said, leading up to Elizabeth and George the Animal Steele. And I do want to throw in one last thing before we get into this. One of the promos that people don't give Hogan enough love for is the one he cut on Andre in this WrestleMania. Go back on WWE Universe and watch that promo. It is excellent. Absolutely excellent. Peak Hogan promo about Andre. There's no Donald Trump and him swimming with the Trump Tower. No, this is full on him talking about the hater or the doubters, the people saying he's on his last ride, that it's almost over, ironically with the Undertaker stuff, but saying like everyone thinks he's done. He's over with. The Giant's going to kill him and all this. It's incredible how he turns himself into an underdog in this situation. I mean, just brilliant stuff from Hogan. So I just wanted to throw that in before we get into the match. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not surprised we got to talking about Hulk Hogan when we were talking about you, but
you know what?
But one of the craziest things that you'll find here is the WrestleMania carts, like coming out to the ring in the car. I got yipping dogs in the back. Sorry, guys. But yeah, the carts are like a big WrestleMania staple. That's just a thing that happens, guys. That's exactly. The carts have come. Now my big dog is barking, and I always love that pageantry of all that going on.
Yeah,
and you have, good God, sorry. And
right.
then you have
power through, brother. We're good.
This is unbelievable. But so you have all that going on, and then the Intercontinental Championship, which talk about on this show 800 bajillion times.
Yeah.
It's my favorite championship. There is a reason that these matches are so excellent. It's because that mid card in WWE from like, I don't know, 89 to 94 was so strong, and they had some of the best wrestlers that there ever was. Mr. Perfect, Macho Man Steamboat, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, British Bulldog, Owen Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all of these, Rick Rude, all of these great wrestlers were in this mid card. This was no exception. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat coming off of those, those big matches in the NWA. Here he comes back to the here he comes to the WWF against Macho Man Randy Savage, who's someone that they are grooming for that top championship. In a year, he would have it. He would win it the next year at WrestleMania.
Right. But
is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat some guy you can run with this mid-card Intercontinental title and make it mean something?
Yeah.
And this match, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Minami Toyota and Aja Kong match.
Right.
Everything they did in this match meant something. And that's why this match stands the test of time. It's athletic. It is, high in drama. And it is exciting to watch, and sometimes it takes lulls. That's what you have to do in a good match. Like, you got to bring the crowd up, you got to bring them back down, then you slowly bring them back up again. And I think everybody from George the Animal Steel to Liz on the outside to Earl Hebner, the referee, Earl Hebner again getting a mention, did so good in this match to make it exactly what it is. I love the hell out of watching it. I could watch it 100 times.
Yeah, I watched it 3 times in preparation for this show because it'd been so long since I'd seen it, and I had and this, people might find this surprising. I actually had a little bit of time between shows this week where I just popped it on because it's a 25-minute match, not necessarily a very long match, 30-minute match. Excellent work by both these gentlemen. It doesn't slow down that much throughout the whole thing, and you got great work from both of them, and nice moves, good changes in pace, good changes in who's on top, who's on bottom, who's in power in the moment. All of that works really well. The George the Animal Steel stuff really works well. The way they work the bell in makes sense as well. And Hebner is in rare form here. This is so Hebner. Good. Fully realized with that thermometer through the top in red and spoiling it. Like, he was just all up in everybody's face throughout this whole match. And then he gets knocked out, which I think is brilliant. But you got to give credit to Monsoon and Ventura as well, who are kind of building up the hype throughout this match. And Ventura, classic heel announcer, talking about Ricky the Dragon, is his throat. He doesn't have a lot of throat. He might have a lot of heart, but he doesn't have a lot of throat. You got Monsoon with the questionable call about saying that Savage pulling a Pearl Harbor on Steamboat, of course, Steamboat of Asian descent. All of that, like, it was just like it hyped it all up throughout, and the body's constantly saying, Ventura's constantly saying, oh, the referee is out of position, the referee's counting too slow, the referee's doing this or that. So already laying the groundwork for this win being a bit of a questionable win. And I guess I don't remember that, Aaron, that it was a small package and that Savage was held there. He wasn't really beat. He was held there and had already pinned, if the referee had been awake, had already pinned Steamboat with a 3 count. It's a way of kind of keeping your guy still a powerful guy, but taking the belt off of him. Yeah,
and something that I didn't really realize during this match was how many times like they would go to the outside. Like, I didn't even realize like that kept happening. Like, one would get in and one would throw the other one out, and then Macho Man, of course, working that throat. He did that running guillotine over the rope. He would. That's a classic Macho Man move: grab you by the head, run towards the ropes, jump over the rope, smack you against the ropes, and smack you back. So good, man. So good. Macho Man still didn't have hair during this time. I don't know when this dude ever had hair, but it's just, if you want like peak Macho Man Randy Savage. Like, this is it, brother. Like, this is the match that you want to see. And of course, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat gets all of his stuff in, his dives and stuff, misses a dive.
Yes.
But you don't see that a lot. He missed his signature dive. But like you said, Macho Man hitting that elbow drop and then hitting like 1, 2, 3. Like, he could have hit 20 on that.
Yeah.
And Earl Hebner. Like, let's talk about Earl Hebner again real quick. Because we can't just let this go by. He didn't take a ref bump.
Yeah.
He looked like he got shot with a shotgun. And that was so damn good. Like, Earl knew exactly what he was doing. And like we talked about in previous I think we talked about it in the Bret Hart match, like sometimes, or maybe all the time, the top guys get to pick their own referee.
Yeah.
So they're going to pick the guy that they trust the most, and why not pick Earl Hebner? And by the way, guys, I have 4 dogs right now. So just if you were wondering, 4 dogs.
No one's hearing that one. I can't hear the dog at all right now.
Okay, wonderful. But but yeah, like, it's just Earl Hebner is just icing on the cake to this. Like I said, Liz and George Steele did such a great job. George Steele grabbing the bell, pushing Macho Man off the top. Like, it was almost heel, but it was warranted because Macho Man was being such a dick in using that ring bell. And poor Liz is just sitting there like, oh God, I'm just here to support Randy and like get this hairy guy away from me. And just a quick side note, that's what I look like with my shirt off, is George the Animal Steele. Just gonna throw that out there. Always wearing a sweater.
By the way, George the Animal Steele, very eloquent man, very educated man. If you ever watch him in interviews, the guy's absolutely very nice and very just totally well spoken. So people can get caught up in these characters. I love the exchange between Body and Monsoon when he said that when he was insulting George the Animal Steele, Ventura was, and Monsoon says he speaks highly of you, and Ventura goes, how's that possible? He can't even speak. I thought it was brilliant.
So that green tongue, man.
Yeah, that's right. The green tongue. Classic. And George would go between heel and face all the time, depending on what the situation called for. So he was really good at playing both sides. But in here, he's he gets involved in the match. And you're right. You can absolutely make the case that this is outside interference. But of course, Savage kind of courted that because of how much stuff he'd done in the past. And even Monsoon said, hey, if someone tried to hit me with a belt in the neck or in the larynx, crush my larynx, I would absolutely get back at them however I could. So that's all factored in here too.
It's kind of wild because Ricky Steamboat did the larynx angle, and then I think a year, maybe 2 later, he did the angle with Jake the Snake Roberts, where he took a DDT on the floor, and he was like, he told Jake, like, give it to me, and Jake was like, I don't think we need to do that on the floor. Like, I'm good at this, but you could get hurt. I don't want you to get hurt. Yeah. Ricky Steamboat said, just give it to me, and then he gave it to him and knocked him unconscious. So Ricky Steamboat ain't no wuss. I'll tell you that very much. Like, the guy ain't no chicken. But let's go ahead and talk about the finish here. So so after Macho Man gets pushed off the top, he goes for the body slam. Ricky rolls through, gets him in kind of a small package, kind of not, really just wraps him up. 1, 2, 3. Macho Man kicks out, doesn't know. Oh God, what the hell happened? Ricky Steamboat is your new Intercontinental Champion. Big moment for him. Macho Man, of course, would go on. Like I said, next year he would win the WrestleMania 4 not Battle Royal, but tournament to become the WWF champion, beating the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. And we almost got a rematch of this classic match at WrestleMania 4, but Ricky Steamboat got eliminated in the first round, which is some bullshit because everybody wanted to see a rematch of that match. And I think the reason they didn't do it is because they didn't want to make Macho Man, because he was going to wrestle again a couple more times in the night. They didn't want him to wear himself out, or they didn't want him to do that kind of thing. And they didn't want to put Steamboat in that position, I guess. I don't know, but I really wanted to see that match again.
Yeah, me too. This is so much fun. And even Savage stays in the ring to complain, right? Stays in the ring, turns Hebner around, says, no, I'd already, I pinned him for 1, 2, 3. Classic heel stuff. And then George carries, Steamboat out into those things, into those movable rings that they had there. So, fascinating stuff. Really great to revisit it. And, you can't talk about it enough. You could spend an hour on that match if you were to break it down, move by move or second by second or minute by minute, and really enjoy what these two gentlemen bring to the fore. And some people have watched it now and they're like, oh, it's not as good as people hype it up to be. Sure, but this is WrestleMania 3, man. The fact that people still talk about this match tells you the legacy and the enduring legacy of this match. And so, it may not hold up to the modern day matches sometimes, but overall, you can't argue the skill and the technique and the knowledge and ability of these two guys and the show that they put on. Because as Aaron said, it's incredibly difficult to steal the show from Hogan versus Andre. And yet this is the match people talk about the most in terms of the best match. And the Hogan Andre is more a matter of, do you remember the slam? That's where this is, do you remember the whole match? You know what I'm saying? There's a difference there. Yeah.
And I mean, wrestlers talk about it all the time. Like that was, the match that got them into wrestling or this or that. So it's well regarded, but I gotta ask you this, a little bit of trivia. Okay. Do you know who Ricky the Dragon Steamboat lost that Intercontinental title to?
Honky Tonk Man?
I got my long sideburns and my hair slicked back. Yes, it was the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time, Mr. Honky Tonk Man himself. Well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Every once in a while, I remember.
Don't forget the Honky Tonk Man. He's cool. He's cocky. He's bad.
Yeah, he is bad. That's for sure. You know what? As we build this thing out, man, we should start reaching out to these older wrestlers, see if they'd come on and do some interviews with us. I think it'd be a lot of fun to
money. I'm sure you can get Honky Tonk Man. We're gonna need more Streamlabs. I don't know if you'll do it on the cheap, but
yeah. Maybe we'll like encourage the fans to donate a certain level so that Honky Tonk get a little bit of cash. A little bit of cash on the side for it. Speaking of days, Chris Taylor sent in a super chat. He said, Steamboat versus Savage or Andre versus Hogan was the first time it split fans into becoming pro wrestling fans or fans of sports entertainment. It's a fair point. Absolutely.
It really is. You might be right. You might be absolutely right because, Steamboat and Savage was for your hardcore old school wrestling fans, and Hogan versus Andre was for your pageantry. It was not a technically sound match by any stretch of the imagination. No. You might be dead on with that, Chris. That's an astute observation there.
Yeah, and I love that profile picture. Homer delivering the stunner. I appreciate that. I think it's on Mo. Savage was just as Justin Toner said. Savage was insane when it came to laying matches out move by move, but it created great stuff. He helped get two of Ultimate Warrior's best matches out of him in WrestleMania 7 and SummerSlam 92.
Yeah, I think he liked Warrior. I think he was like one of the few guys that liked him. I'm not sure about that. I have to do some more research.
It's probably because they all sat around. They both probably sat around bitching about Hogan for hours. They bonded over that.
Probably so. Yeah, you're probably right.
Gennaro Gruen says Hogan supposedly wrote this whole match out, gave it to Vince to give to Andre. Savage did for this one, went over it for hours.
Yeah. Right. Well, because meticulous for doing that. 100%.
Exactly. And if you watch the Andre documentary, Hogan says Savage tried to do that and Andre ignored him and almost slapped him with his big meaty hand because he wasn't going to allow that to do that. Tim Franco coming in. Thank you, Tim. Says y'all should cover Omega versus Okada at Dominion 2018. Well,
it's on the list. It's on the list, sir.
Tim Franco, you made the list.
That's right. You made the list.
It's Mr. Burns. He says it's Mr. Burns with hair. All right.
Maybe he's supposed to look like Vince McMahon, and that's the whole.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. All right, fair enough. All right, there we go. That's this episode of Strong Style. Thank you to everybody who joined us live. Thanks for all the likes. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the Streamlabs. Oh, we got one Streamlab. We get rolled here. From Hill Nellums, he said, I love Savage/Steamboat match. I met Savage when I was 10 in a Detroit airport, and it could have been a greater 2 minutes of my life. Gave me the full gimmick before I knew what a gimmick was. Still one of the best young memories of my life. Oh, wow, dude.
That's amazing.
Right? Aaron, that seems perfect to meet Savage in a Detroit airport to have him give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, I heard a story. If we could talk story time for just a second. I heard this story about Macho Man Randy Savage. He went into a hotel, to check in for the night. And the guy asked him, the guy that was working the desk, he's like, well, what's your, okay, you need a room. What's your name? He goes, Macho Man goes, what do you mean, brother? Well, what's your name? He goes, read the boots, my friend. First name Macho, last name Man. Could you imagine working the desk at a hotel? It's late at night, and this fucking guy comes in, and he says his name is Macho Man. First name Macho, last name Man. You're like, I guess, dude. What?
Write it down.
Write it down, brother. It's gonna be famous one day. Step into a Slim Jim.
Give me a discount on the room. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, that's one of the many great stories.
Yeah, man. All right, Aaron, where can they find you, my man? Tell the people.
You can find me on Twitter at OnlyAaronTurner. If you have been checking out my Twitter, I've been talking about, holy shit, all of the San Diego Comic-Con reveals they had for wrestling figures. They're making Hulk Hogan figures again. What the hell's going on in this world? So everybody's pretty excited about that. I'm pretty stoked. Also, here comes again Hulk Hogan. Also, guys, next week will be Dusty Rhodes Yeah, baby. Versus Tully Blanchard, Great American Bash 89. So check that out. Do your homework on that one. We're going to talk about that next week. That is a John Rocha pick. So the Outlaw wanted a Dusty Rhodes match, so we'll get him Dusty versus Tully, baby.
Let's do it.
And then after that, in the month of August, I think we're going to do a theme month of all SummerSlam matches.
Yeah,
so we're going to do some of the best SummerSlam matches leading to eventually, and I haven't told Rocha about this, but it's definitely going to happen. There's going to be a watch along, guys. It's going to happen. Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan from SummerSlam. We got to do it. We owe it. If you know the history of us two, we've got to do this as a watch along. It's the only way.
Oh, man. That is going to be insane. I'm going to kill that match the whole time we're doing it for sure.
That's going to be fun. So one watch along and then the best, some good SummerSlam matches along the way. I think that'll be the way to go.
Right on. Still works. I've had it for 2 decades. Okay. There you go. That's it. All right. You can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Excited about all the matches Aaron just laid out. Can't wait to cover them and talk about them. And, of course, the weeks of wrestling news with you all. Thanks for joining us live every week. Those of you who keep spreading the word on this show. I think it's a damn good show. I think we both have good points of views and fun conversations where an hour goes by quickly. So hope you all feel the same way. Share it on your social media. Trumpet it on those wrestling message boards. Put the link up on those message boards and get some attention for this show. Well, I'm going to try to build it out as well, as I just mentioned, by trying to get some guests on here for us to interview and have some fun with, and we'll generate some more content for this channel. This is my focus now, this channel. All the shows on this channel are my focus, and I'm trying to do more and more content so you all can enjoy all the various things that are happening on the channel. And I'm very proud of Strong Style and want to make it work as strongly as we can. No pun intended. So there you go. But do your part as fans of the show. Share it, like it, do all the things. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a like, give it a comment down below to elevate it in the algorithm of YouTube. Do all those things you need to do. All right, that's it for this episode of Strong Style. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Wear a mask. I hope both of us can say that. And we'll see you next week with another live episode of Strong Style. Take care until then.